The Ministry of Education's announcement on Tuesday directing all Grade 4, Class 8 and Form 4 students to report back to school on 12th of October 2020 for the second time has continued to elicit mixed reactions across the country. A section of Kenyans have criticized the announcement by Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha, while others have welcomed it. Some of those who are opposed to the reopening say that most parents have lost their jobs due to the COVID-19 pandemic and therefore cannot afford to readmit their children in schools, while those supporting the reopening feel that their children have been out of class for too long and therefore they need to report back to schools. Our reporter Alice Diana spoke to some parents and has prepared the following report.
In a shocking move that caught parents and candidates off guard, Education CS George Magoha on Tuesday directed all Grade 4, Class 8 and Form 4 learners to report back to school on Monday next week, a directive that has received mixed reactions from both the public and parents. The CS defended the move on the resumption of studies, saying it was in line with President Uhuru Kenyatta's directive and followed broad-based education stakeholders' consultations. While some parents have registered their displeasure, saying the directive was outrageous, others have hailed it. Some of those opposed to the reopening argued that many parents have lost their jobs due to the COVID-19 pandemic, hence cannot afford to readmit their children in school. Kissinger Kiprotich, a parent of Class 8 and Form 4 students, says he was not psychologically prepared for the resumption, neither were his children.
I think looking at the government directive, the issue that I have had is the information flow. It's been totally erratic and you could not plan on it because one day you're opening schools, the second day you're not opening schools, the other time you're opening next year, sometimes you're opening before December. I think that has been moving. Sometimes I think it was even 1st of September. So that came in. And I think when we were looking forward to hear His Excellency mention the date and he didn't, so we went back and said, okay, maybe possibly next year.
Kissinger also says that he's worried about the safety of his children who are used to staying at home and doing online classes, but now they will have to interact with their classmates face-to-face, something he says poses a threat to their health. The Education Ministry on Tuesday directed school administrations to strictly ensure learners adhere to the COVID-19 protocols set by the Ministry of Health in an effort to contain the spread of coronavirus in places of learning.
We are not sure about the safety of the children. Even themselves, they're not sure whether they'll be able to keep the mask on all the time. Remember, these children have been at home most of the time, so they hardly wear masks unless they are really going out to buy 1 or 2, 3 things and come back to the house. But they'll be going to school for 8 good hours and have to wear a mask. So that is a different ball game altogether that they'll have to get used to. So they'll have to psychologically prepare for that.
On his part, Harun Kibwage, a parent of Grade 4 learner, has hailed CS Magoha's directive, saying he believes the decision was thought through before it was announced. He says the phased reopening will enable the students who are supposed to report back to school to practice social distancing.
We are positive as a family, and we see that the leaders in our education have really thought this thing through, because at first we thought they'll open at one go, but this first approach to us works well, and they've chosen the classes. We will want to believe they checked on the candidates, because the candidates had a lot to lose because they were in their final years, and then the Grade 4, because them being the first class for the competency-based curriculum. So I want to believe they'll observe the social distancing, they'll follow the protocols by the Ministry of Health, and the good thing is that these children now are they are adults, they can think, they can be talked to, and I'm sure they will adhere to the guidelines.
Even as some parents raise concerns that schools might increase school fees, Kibwage has urged the government to set a standard fee for schools and also wants schools to allow parents to pay school fees in installments to avoid straining them financially.
One can never really say that they are financially prepared, but what I would say is that if the education, the schools where our children go to, if they can allow for installment payments, so that we get back to the groove of paying. We've stayed from March without this expense being in our budgets.
Financially 50-50, because you always keep something, knowing schools will open one day, and so that we could have an idea, yes, schools might open and you already keep some money on the side.
Many have also questioned why schools are reopening earlier for grade 4 pupils, with Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen, who took to social media on Tuesday, asking if it was logic for him to take his grade 4 child to school while his elder, who is in class 6, stays at home.
Even as grade 4, class 8 and Form 4 students prepare to go back to school on Monday next week, Kenyans are waiting to know when the Ministry of Education will announce the resumption of classes of the remaining students. For Hope TV News Watch in Nairobi, I'm Alice Diana.